stuff here. That way you guys can kind of at least see me. Alright. Alright, so Rogers, you kind of know the big thing, the big kind of focal point for this build is this guy right here, 2070 RTX ray tracing. I went with a Gigabyte instead of MSI like I normally do, so a little bit different from the usual builds, but Gigabyte's still a good company, good graphic card, still NVIDIA, so you're going to get the same performance out of it. But that's kind of like the big surprise for this one. We're actually going to have an RTX graphic card. What I'm going to do is also do some benchmarking. So it's plexiglass siding, plexiglass front with RGB lighting throughout. It's got 320 mil fans up front. And just overall, I mean, this thing looks badass. It looks really good. It's nice and sturdy too. It's got good feet on it. And I mean, it's a thick plexi. Actually, it might even be glass. This might be actual glass on this. I think it is. Either that or a really thick, really sturdy plexiglass. So that's really cool. That's really cool to kind of see out of Corsair. They make really good quality cases. So inside, you have the usual. You got your little fittings here, so you can cable manage pretty well. We got 3 of them with the rubber bushings around them. We have the power supply, the shield that goes over it, so it hides all those cables, the extra stuff that's underneath it. We got a couple of holes in here, so our cable extensions, which are also going to be green, can come kind of right out of them, right in here. Power supply, we're going to be running EVGA 650 watt fully modular power supply. Pretty standard for this kind of build. I don't usually deviate too much in terms of brands. EVGA is a really good brand. EVGA or Corsair are the 2 companies that I go through. So fully modular, it'll allow us to add in the cables that we need and not put in the ones we don't need. So we got those right there. Oop. And to kind of add on to that, we have our lime green cable extensions. Vengeance LPX, they're the low profile RAM. Dissipates heat really good. This is the only RAM that I put in outside of RGB RAM. This is 3000 megahertz, so a little bit higher clock to it. 2666 is your best buck for the motherboard. So MSI, certified reseller for MSI and ASUS product. I like to go with MSI as much as possible. Unfortunately, with the graphics cards, they were all sold out. I couldn't go with them, hence why I went with Gigabyte, but still up there with MSI. This is a Z370 motherboard. It's a full ATX board. So Intel 8th gen i7 8700. So newest generation. Corsair SP120 green. These are the silent. We got our Western Digital 2 1 terabyte hard drives. Those are going to be going in. 240 gig solid state drive. This is what's going to hold the operating system and essential program. Wireless card, TP link. So it's just going to plug directly into our PCI Express, and then it'll give us internet capability. It's 2.5 and 5 gig, so we'll get the best of both worlds there. And the usual AIOs. I put AIOs in pretty much all of my builds now. I usually don't try to go with air-cooled so much anymore unless the customer specifically asks for it. This is the 2018 model, so the brand new model, Corsair H60. This specific one I put in one other build, and it wasn't an Intel. I don't know the adapter. I might have to read a little bit, but it does have LED lighting on the pump head. And then once I pull that apart, kind of dig into it, I'll show you exactly what all comes with the AIOs. An AIO is an all-in-one system, so you don't have to deal with the pump and the reservoir and the tubing, all of that, and the mount for the CPU or your GPU. That's a full liquid-cooled system, but this is all enclosed, so you don't have to worry about refilling. If you do, then something's going out. So we're going to start off by working with the CPU, getting the CPU mounted to the motherboard. We'll get that put in, and also the RAM put in, and then we'll set that aside. Probably pull up the case next. Work on getting the radiator and the AIO kind of installed in the case. Now, actually, yeah, we'll probably prep the case for the installation of our motherboard, and then go down the AIO route. So we'll go ahead and open her up. So pretty much all boxes are exactly the same. You have your AM4 socket, which is AMD, and you have your LG 1151, which is your Intel. Each of them have a pivoting arm. LGA stands for Land Grid Array, and basically instead of your pins being on your your pins being on your CPU, the grid is on your CPU. Where AMD, your pins are on your CPU and they go into the motherboard. So that's 700 3.2 gigahertz standard clock. And then when it's unlocked, it'll be something a little bit different. So, or I should say, when it's overclocked, it'll overclock probably to 3.2. I want to say it's like 0.5 or 0.7. So you're probably looking at like a 3.94. I should say on the motherboard, we're gonna have a little circle. It's gonna be kind of like a Pac-Man on the bottom left-hand side, and on the processor, we're going to have the same little circle. It's going to be a little triangle in the bottom left-hand corner. Obviously, you can rotate it so it'll be in different things, but it should be matching up with that little circle. So we're going to take it. Now, you don't want to give a lot of pressure onto that. You just kind of want to not drop it, but kind of let it sit above it, and then let it fall into place. Don't try to cram it in there. You might end up breaking something. And then you're going to take the housing or the shroud that's above it, get it down and around it, get your arm down and around. Now your CPU is installed. So again, with that little triangle being at the bottom left-hand side. But these go in a particular way that will be more efficient when the computer is running. So as of right now, our motherboard is pretty much where we need it. There's not really a whole lot more we can do with it right now. So I'm going to slide it back in the ESD bag, and we're just going to set it off to the side. H60 is going to be just a single rad 120 millimeter radiator that's going to allow water to absorb the heat from your CPU and take the water through basically a circuit that's going to run to a radiator, and then you're going to have a fan that is either pushing or pulling. There's not really any proof which way is more efficient or effective. There's even been talk like doing it both ways is equally as efficient. So it's either going to push or pull the fans are going to push or pull that heat and kick it outside of the case. That is our 120 millimeter radiator. It's just like a car radiator. And then you have your pressure and return hoses. So one's going to be sending it to your pump, which is right here. It's built inside of your housing to your CPU mount, which is right here. And then it's going to return through the return line back up to the radiator. It's going to run through a series of tubing. We have our mounting hardware here. Now in order to mount and I'm just going to kind of temp install these because I want my fan to face this cable has to face the back of the fan, or the back of the case, I'm sorry. Now, I don't know where I'm going to mount this radiator yet. I don't know how I'm going to mount it, so for the time being, I'm just going to kind of temporarily install it. Like I said, it is going to be temp installed. Kind of throwing it on there to get it in place. And then we will rearrange it when we actually go to put it in. So we have our AIO shield. This is going to go right here. A lot of people forget to put this in. There's nothing worse than getting your motherboard mounted and like installed and then realizing you did not put this in. Have I done it before? Yes, I have. So it's one of those things. Just make sure you install it before you take that next step. So again, AIO shield, and that's going to go from the inside to the out. It's going to have a flanged end that it will just kind of pop into place. You'll kind of hear it pop when it seats. There we go. These three slots are for solid state drives, the 2.5 inch drives. You also have 2.5 inch hard drives. They're normally laptop hard drives, but they will fit in there. So if you decide you want to go that route, you can. But primarily people put their solid